Hey everybody, welcome to the First and Last Podcast. It's your boy, Big Ben Chunko. You can find me on X at Chunko Ben. Alright, so we got week 1 in the books of fantasy football, and we got pretty lucky. There wasn't too many huge injuries. I mean, the tight end position, we had David Njoku and Jake Ferguson. They both got hurt. The status is still, up in the air, so you know what I mean, how long they're going to be out. And receiver-wise, Jordan Addison got banged up, and Arumo Duze, Puka Nacua. So, but other than that, we got through pretty good, There's nothing, no season-long out, Nothing that should affect too much. And today I'll be bringing you waiver wire picks. Guys you should be looking at for week 2. Now, before we get into the waiver wire picks, I want everyone to remember, we only went through 1 week. So just, don't panic. Because, some guys, they didn't do much. Dalton Kincaid. He was somebody you probably drafted pretty early. And, he came out and he didn't do anything. We had other players that just, they were the same way. They looked horrible. Caleb Williams, And then we had some running backs look rough too. So, here's the thing. I'm going to give you a list of guys. I'm not going to get crazy in the stats because, let's face it, I could sit here for the next 3 hours talking about stats and how many carries somebody got, this, that, and the other. And what's a lot of this waiver wire depends on what kind of league you're in. You need to know your league settings. And I'm not talking about just if you're in an 8, 10, 12, 14, 16-man league. Obviously, some of these guys, if you're in a 12, 14, 16-man league, these guys aren't going to be available. They got picked up, and even in a 10-man league, it all depends on how deep your bench is. And if you're an 8-man league, I wouldn't suggest dropping anyone you already drafted because, I don't feel that anyone you drafted is probably worth dropping to pick up any of these running backs or receivers at this point. Okay, so I'm going to get into it, plus also with quarterback, we had Jordan Love go down. They're talking 3 to 6 weeks, nothing definite. But so we're going to jump right into it here, okay? So for the quarterbacks I have this week, you got Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith. Now, I know some people might be like, oh, Daniel Jones. Yes, I know, he played horrible. But he's going against Washington Commanders. That defense got torched by Tampa Bay. Now, I understand that, Tampa Bay, they're a better team than New York. But, everybody there, all the receivers for Tampa Bay, Evans, Godwin, they all caught touchdowns. And they all had good games. So, so it's kind of like, Daniel Jones, if he's somebody that's, you need someone to replace for this week, because let's face it, any quarterback you pick up this week is going to be you're going to be streaming until Jordan Love comes back, unless you have a quarterback 2 on your team. A lot of us draft, just one quarterback, but, they're all going to be matchup dependent. So I'm not saying pick Daniel Jones up this week, then play him until Jordan Love comes back. That's not what you're going to be able to do with Daniel Jones. And even Baker Mayfield, he's got a tougher game against the Lions. I still think he'll be okay. He's got good receivers at his disposal, so he should be okay. Justin Fields is playing Denver. Also didn't look very good. I think we all knew Denver wasn't going to be very good. So, but this game you got to be careful too, because if Pittsburgh comes out, swinging and they're clubbing Denver, you might not see a lot of Justin Fields throwing. Now, the only nice thing with Justin Fields is he has that running upside. And Mike Tomlin had said that they're preparing as if Justin Fields is going to be the starter for week 2. So that makes it, so that's a good chance Russell Wilson's going to be out again. If he is, Justin Fields in. He's a good streaming option this week. And Geno Smith, he's going against New England. Their defense didn't look horrible, but let's face it, Cincinnati did look horrible. So, So I think Geno Smith would be a good option also. Also, if you're in some lighter leagues and lost Daniel Jones, you might Matt Stafford might still be out there. There might be other quarterbacks out there. I'm kind of going as if this is a 12-man. We're talking about a 12-man league. I only play in 12-man leagues personally. So I checked the 12, I checked all my teams, and these were the guys that were mainly available. All right, and so we move on to running back. Now this is a different, because I know there were some running backs who looked awful, like Zamir White, and listen, it's week 1. Don't panic. You know that old saying they used to say, the KISS saying, keep it simple, stupid? Like that's, fantasy football. Don't complicate it. I mean, number one, it's supposed to be fun, and you're supposed to be there, loving it, like most of us do. And sometimes people make it so complicated. They turn, they turn a simple addition problem into calculus. You know what I mean? So take it easy if these guys did bad. But if you're looking to make a change, or if you're in super deep leagues and you're already weak on running back, if these guys are available, they'd be okay to grab. I have Alexander Madison, which I'm not going to be crazy about him. And here's another thing. If your waiver wire is fab, don't go crazy on these guys, because remember, this is week 1. There's a long season ahead. If you go drop, 80% of your fab on one of these running backs and they end up just to be a week 1 hero, what happens if 2 of your running backs get hurt later on in the year? You can't even bid for anyone. You're going to get outbid, and it's just going to be horrible. So keep that in mind. And remember, if you're in a simple, like an old school waiver wire thing where, you take turns, whoever drafted first would start out 12, and whoever drafted 12 would be first on the waiver wire this week. Or you might be in waiver wires where the worst teams get the first picks. Know your settings and know where you pick. Because if I'm sitting on a number 1 waiver wire, like an old school way without fab, I don't think I'm using my waiver wire pick right now. I think I'm going to wait. Well, actually, I know I'm going to wait. But, everybody plays different. So I'm going to bring you the running backs for week 2. You got Alexander Madison, J.K. Dobbins, Tank Bigsby, Jaleel McLaughlin, Justice Hill, Jordan Mason, and Bucky Irving. Okay, now I'm making this video today, which is Tuesday. So, so if you watch the Monday night game, Christian McCaffrey, he sat out. They're saying there's a good chance he'll sit out again. If he sits out again, Jordan Mason, he's definitely good. The guy looked good. Here's the thing with Jordan Mason. Once Christian McCaffrey comes back, he doesn't have standalone value. So, if you're using all your fab up this week or your waiver wire spot, you only have Jordan Mason for 1 week, and then Christian McCaffrey's back, and you're back to not even knowing who Jordan Mason is. He might get a couple carries here and there, but, he's not going to do anything relevant. Also, Alexander Madison. Listen, we all know about Alexander Madison. I didn't like this guy last year when people were drafting him in the 2nd, 3rd round. I said stay away from him. If you listened, you were lucky. If you didn't, well, you were very unlucky. I feel, this Raiders team is so bad that they're going to be behind. So they're going to be passing a lot. So, if you're in a deep league, I guess maybe spend maybe 5% of your fab if you really need a running back. J.K. Dobbins, another one that exploded. This guy's a good running back. I liked him at Ohio State. I think everybody thought he was going to be a stud in Baltimore. Injuries hampered that. Remember, he is an injury-prone running back. And, yeah, I know he carried the load. He got a big chunk of his yards from a long play for a touchdown. He still did good. I'm not saying he had a bad week. But, I'm hearing other people, people in the industry saying they'd be okay spending 80% of their fab on this guy. Listen, don't do it. Because with the injuries, he turns around next week, and, I'm not hoping the guy gets hurt. No one's hoping that, or, I don't want to jinx him or be that guy. But, let's say you spend 80% of your fab, he gets hurt in the 1st quarter next week. Man, you're in a lot of trouble, because now you're not even going to be able to... you're probably not even going to have enough fab to go get Kamani Vidal. Because I'm assuming Gus Edwards is gone in most leagues. And like I said, if you're in a deeper league, you're not seeing J.K. Dobbins anyway. He's gone. But but that's the thing though. If for some reason he would get an injury, you would want to be able to pivot to Kamani Vidal. If you use all your fab up this week, I mean, you're not going to even have that option if something does happen. And here's the thing. I don't think Gus Edwards is just going to, ride off into the sunset. You're not going to hear from him. We see this every year. One running back comes out for the first week. He's getting all the play. And, the hot hand is a real thing. Coaches are going to play who has a hot hand. I mean, you see it you see it from high school. If a player's hot that day, I mean, they're good. We see it in college. We see it in the pros. We see it anywhere. Every sport has that guy who he's just having that day. Doesn't matter what he do. It doesn't matter what he does. He can do no wrong. So, keep all that in mind. Okay, also Tank Bigsby. Here we go again with Tank Bigsby. I know, he almost split carries with Travis Etienne. Again, I believe he's a flash in the pan. Now, you want to handcuff him to Travis Etienne, then that's cool. But to rely on this guy week in, week out, like I said, no standalone value. I mean, and here's the thing, I might be wrong, but I'm just saying that Tank Bigsby, I'm not falling for it. I'm just not doing it. So, keep that in mind with him. Justice Hill's another one. You didn't see a lot of running from Baltimore because they were behind most of the game. So, so obviously you're not going to see as much running going on. We didn't get that full dosage, what I mean, of the King, King Henry like we thought we were going to. So, these are players that I guess if you really were desperate and needed somebody, fine. But I'm not going nuts for Justice Hill. Bucky Irving. He's another one. Now, I think at some point throughout the season, he could take this starting job from Rashard White. It might happen, it might not happen, but right now, I would, if I was going for him, it would be more in a handcuff. But you got to make sure. See, here's the thing: it's early on, so that means you're dropping somebody you drafted, somebody that you like more than Bucky Irving when you did your draft. You're going to have to drop him to pick up Bucky Irving. Now, I don't know. It's like I said, it's week 1, so take it easy. If you have somebody you totally hate, like let's say you have Khalil Herbert would be a perfect example. Drop him, go pick Bucky Irving up. You know what I'm saying? If you have just somebody who you think, if you just have somebody like that, then fine. But don't go dropping Zamir White right now to go pick up Bucky Irving. That's just it's not a good move. Also, I have on here guys that, here's a guy that I seen people are just dropping him like crazy, Blake Corum. I understand Blake Corum didn't get a carry. He sat behind Kyron Williams and Rivers. But here's the thing. Don't drop him just yet. Because, again, injuries are part of the game. We don't hope for him or anything. But here's the thing. If something would happen to Kyron Williams, Blake Corum will beat out this Rivers he will beat out Ronnie Rivers, I believe his name, for that starting role. He's a better running back than him. So don't go nuts and drop him to go pick up some guy that might be a week 1 flash in the pan. All right, so we're going to move on to receivers, which I'm really not down to drop any receivers I drafted right now for any of these guys, but you guys might need receivers in deep leagues, so I'm going to give you the list I have. Rashid Shaheed, Greg Dortch, Khalil Shakir, Troy Tucker, Xavier Legette, which he should be, if you're in a deep league, he's rostered. And Rondell Robinson, which could maybe be open in 12-man leagues, maybe. The only receivers out of these guys that I'd be willing to go after personally is maybe Rashid Shaheed, Khalil Shakir, and Rondell Robinson. The other guys like Trey Tucker, I'm not doing it. I put him on there as an option. He's not somebody I like. Greg Dortch, don't like him. I'm not going to do it. So those are the receivers. Now the tight end, it gets a little different because, you did lose, Njoku and Ferguson. So everyone's Isaiah Likely. I think he's going to be okay. He's someone to me you can pick up, but don't expect that same kind of week every week. Again, Baltimore was losing. If they're winning, you're not going to see that kind of play. And it's not like Mark Andrews is going to say, okay, buddy, just step over and take my spot. And you got to think, Kansas City knew that they loved throwing to Mark Andrews. So what did they do? They took Mark Andrews out of the game. Baltimore runs a 2 tight end set, which opened up Isaiah Likely. So, so not every team's going to play like that. And, Mark Andrews is going to get his. So, don't go real crazy for him. I would say half your fab if you really, if you really need a tight end, 50 to 60% of your fab. I wouldn't like doing it, but I could understand and I could see doing it. The other tight ends I have is Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz. So, these guys, Juwan Johnson had a touchdown, which was cool. And, but they're going to get you, they're going to be them guys. 1 week they might get you 15 points, 1 week they'll get you 7. And that goes for the rest. Taysom Hill, he has that running ability with him, which makes him, it makes him interesting. Mike Gesicki, he's old. You're going to get good weeks out of him. You're going to get more bad than good. These guys are around here. Zach Ertz is the same way. And sooner or later, Benson Knott's going to take that over, that role as tight end over in Washington. So, if you need someone now, those are guys that I think could help your team. All right, I'm not going to keep you guys too long. That's just the list I have. And, if you see this on Facebook, make sure you like and subscribe. If you run past me on Twitter, hit me up. I always love talking football with everybody. If you play DraftKings, you want to play some heads up, Big B814 is my name on there. I mostly play on Kings. Once in a while, you find me on FanDuel, but you mostly see me on DraftKings. All right, guys. You guys have a good one, and let's get ready for week 2, baby. Later.